This monitor is incredible value for money. This is the brand new Portkeys PT6 on-camera monitor, and I think it's the best monitor you can buy bang for buck. Okay, let's get the regular disclaimers out the way. Portkeys did send me this monitor, but it wasn't to make this video review. It was actually to write an article that's completely unrelated to this video. Portkeys don't know this video is being made and they won't see it before it's uploaded, and all of these opinions are completely my own. So I mentioned that this monitor comes in at a budget, and I want to speak firstly about its price. It comes in at $169, which I think is incredible value for money for what you get packed in with this monitor. This is obviously the monitor mount, and it is a fairly decent one. It's sturdy enough. One thing I don't particularly like with it is that it does require an Allen key basically to adjust or tighten the tension of each of the axes, which I think is a little bit annoying because that means you always need to carry an Allen key with you if you need to make any adjustments, which is a little bit frustrating. I would have preferred to see one with a hand knob, but you can always replace this and buy one that's more specific. And obviously this is a budget monitor, so you can't expect too much. Next up, the sun hood. This is a very basic sun hood. It essentially does the job, but it is just a piece of plastic that's kind of been bent with some cutouts in it. It does have the Portkeys logo on the side. It will do the job if you don't need another one, but I'm sure that you'd be able to get your hands on a third-party one that may do a better job. One thing I didn't expect when unboxing this monitor was to see this. This is the carrying case that comes with it. It's a plastic box, but made to look like a Pelican case. Don't be fooled, it's definitely not going to protect your gear like a Pelican case. It does open up nicely, and inside there are two foam inserts. However, these foam inserts are not like cut out to specifically fit things, and I don't think the monitor would fit in here with a big battery, so that is a downside, but at least it keeps your monitor nice and safe and sound. So I'm pretty happy that this was included. And of course you get your array of cables. This is the HDMI to HDMI cable. There's also a micro HDMI to regular HDMI cable, depending on what your camera will support. And this monitor is supported by kind of the majority of cameras out there. You can go down on their website and check whether your camera is compatible, but most new modern cameras will be compatible with the PT6. One thing that's not included with this monitor is a battery. That's something you should keep in mind if you're going to pick this up, because you will need a battery to power this monitor. And speaking of, it's powered by either the Sony MPF batteries. This is a Sony MPF60F70, but they also support the Canon LP6 batteries, which is great, or you can power it via a DC output. So there's plenty of power solutions, but you will need to get one before you can power on this monitor. Okay, so let's talk about my first impressions of this monitor, and firstly the build quality. As you may expect from a budget monitor in this price range, it's not built with the finest materials. It's predominantly built with plastic, however, it does seem to be built very well. I'd be confident that this monitor isn't going to break or fall apart anytime soon. The battery mounting point on the back does have a lock, which is excellent for holding in those large batteries like I just spoke about. In terms of inputs and outputs on this monitor, there are quite a few. On the left-hand side of the monitor, you have the HDMI in port, which is the port that you'll use to connect your camera to the monitor. Alongside that, a 3.5mm audio jack, which you can use to monitor your audio, alongside a regular size USB port. Over on the other side, you have an HDMI out port, which is great for exporting your image to another monitor if you want to live stream, for example. Also on this side, you have the DC power input, which is great for powering your monitor in that way. There are two toggles on the monitor. One is the on-off switch, which is pretty self-explanatory, and one is a touchscreen lock. This monitor is touchscreen, which is great, but sometimes you don't want to be accidentally touching the screen, so you can lock it so the touchscreen function is turned off, which I think is a really neat feature. Other than that, there's the regular screw on the bottom, which is used for connecting it to the mount, and that is pretty much it in terms of the monitor's actual physical features. Okay, let's talk about this display. It's a 5.2-inch 60Hz 1080p display, which I think is expected for a monitor inside this price bracket. If you're looking to get a 4K display, then you definitely need to look at more expensive options. It has a max brightness of 600 nits, which is pretty decent, and with the sun hood viewable outdoors with no problem. The screen can display 100% of the DCI P3 color gamut, which means you're going to get very accurate color representation across the board with this monitor, which is absolutely brilliant. The hardware of this monitor is really good. For the price, you can't really ask for much more. For me, I'm not really that disappointed that it's not 4K, because realistically, I'm just using it to kind of check my image and maybe check my exposure, and I'm not looking to have the highest resolution being pumped out into the monitor, as I just don't see it necessary. Okay, let's talk about the software on this monitor. This is one of the areas where I do think that this monitor does fall back a little bit. The user interface on this monitor is pretty confusing and not very user-friendly. This is one of the biggest down points on this monitor for me, but something that I am hopeful could be fixed in a future firmware update. If you can navigate the kind of complicated and awkward menus, you can find a lot of really useful features on this monitor, such as peaking, luma waveforms, grids, guides, different crop factors, zebra guides, as well as false color. And it's pretty impressive to have all those features packed into a monitor in this price range. There are two main menus which can be accessed by swiping across the display. One is a basic menu where you can adjust brightness, contrast, saturation, and those kind of very simple changes. The second menu is much more customizable. You can arrange and customize which functions you'd like where, and arrange them to suit your needs, which I think is a great level of customization. If only it wasn't so awkward to do. And one of my favorite features is the ability to add a custom 3D LUT to the monitor to kind of put it over your footage, especially for those of you who shoot in log. This is going to be an amazing feature. It allows you to monitor your footage as if it was already corrected with your favorite LUT or LUT of your choice. It already comes preloaded with some of the essential LUTs, including the ones that I use for my Sony camera, but you can add plenty of additional LUTs using a USB stick and loading them onto the monitor. This is one of the most useful features for me and almost completely sells the monitor. The PT6 can also output to another larger display, hence the HDMI out port, in case you intend to monitor to an even larger display or you want to use it for live streaming. It has an additional feature for vertical shooting called stretch legs, and Portkeys have advertised this quite a lot in their press releases for this, and it's essentially a feature which allows you to stretch the image below a certain point. I don't really understand why or when this would be used. In the examples they used, it's for making dancers' legs look longer. I don't really understand why you'd want to do this, but hey, it's a feature there if you want to use it. I think overall this monitor is brilliant value for money, and you really can't go wrong with a monitor of this value packed with this many features. I'll definitely be using it more over the next few months to get a true grip of what it's capable of, and I'll probably do a review later down the line talking about my experience of using it. What I'd love to see in the future for this monitor is an update to the firmware, because that software is just horrible to use, but I'm sure that that could be fixed in the future. One thing that's worth noting that this monitor doesn't do is record internally. It doesn't allow you to unlock any extra recording modes in your camera. It is simply for monitoring your image. This could be a deal breaker for some people if that's what you need, but if in that case you're looking at much more expensive monitors. However, for me, I just wanted a larger display for my camera to see what's going on, because these tiny little displays on cameras are pretty useless at times. But that's pretty much it on my first look of the Portkeys PT6 monitor. I hope that you've enjoyed this video. I hope you found it useful. If you did, why not hit the like button and subscribe if you want to see more videos just like this one. Thank you so much to all of you who have already subscribed. We finally hit 1,000 subscribers, which was really cool. And it's definitely a milestone for any aspiring content creator, so it was really cool to hit that. Thank you so much for your ongoing support, and I hope you will have a great week, and I'll see you on Friday.